Call to order, please. The meeting is called to order. Let's stand up for the pledge to the allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Excuse me.
Roll call, please.
Good evening. Trustee Shubanka is not here. Trustee Lex?
Present.
Trustee Das Magua?
Here.
And Vice President Encarnacion? And lastly, President Galeon.
Here. I move for approval of agenda.
I move that the agenda be approved as presented.
I second.
I need an approval of the minutes from last month's meeting.
Move that the minutes be approved as presented.
I second.
Okay. Trustees report. Any report from the trustees?
Well, we'll help you out there with the first item. As you recall, we brought this up for discussion at our last regular meeting to review the Library Board of Trustees webpage, take a look at some samples from some other boards of trustees in the peninsula, and then seek direction from the board how you want to proceed to make any enhancements to the existing web presence. So with that, Shayla will show you, I think, to start with where we are would be a good place to start.
Wow, look at this quorum. Rolling in at the same time.
I didn't want Arlene to feel badly.
No, that was
We
sweet.
came in just in time for the first item of real business, number 2.
Okay, so up on the screen
It
is the existing description for the Board of Trustees as it appears as a subpage of the dalycity.org webpage. It has a very brief description, and it lists the name of the trustees
This month?
in alphabetical order by last name, and the vice president and president are indicated on there, as well as the date the term expires. And then there's a couple links. Can you click on the first link, the meeting agendas? No, that's not where I wanted to. Well, okay, that's fine. It goes to the same place. And that's where you find the archives of agendas and minutes and video.
Oh.
Can you go back? And then no, underneath their names, the second one, there's a link to our library policies. Oh, we have dead links? That's not good. All right, well, there's something to fix right away. And then library locations and hours. So that's the state of it now. We don't have pictures. There was a time when was there individual or a group photo? There were individual photos at one time. It's something we're certainly open to, and if we now take a look at, where are we going?
Where would you like to go?
We'll start, just go at the top, from the top, Menlo Park. So that is how the Library Commission, which I assume is equivalent to the Board of Trustees, appears for Menlo Park.
So is that an email link to each of those members?
It looks like that's their personal emails.
What happens if you click it?
It's a mail to link. It's going to launch Outlook, which won't work.
Oh, say.
They have vacancies. Menlo Park.
And they talk about roles and responsibilities and priorities and
That one does not include photos or bios, and we're not quite sure. Do you recall from that email if it goes to a central email, or is it private individual?
Well, they're Gmail and there's one Yahoo, so I think they're.
So it may be their personal, private email accounts. Okay. So that's how Menlo Park looks today.
And one person has a phone number.
Oh, and there's one phone number. And Redwood City, I believe, is one that trustee Lex referenced last time. A little lengthier description, a few more links, and the members have contact information on one phone number and other personal email, Gmail, Yahoo accounts, names, and expiration of the term.
And their address.
That's Redwood.
Some of them.
And then next, going to do Richmond.
That's always our. They have commission.
Yeah, interesting. Library Commission for the City of Richmond.
On the compensation.
And there are the names of the commissioners, the date they're appointed, and their term of expiration. And it looks like either this page is woefully out of date, or they just
Well,
have some expired terms.
Looks like that page is what we.
Okay.
yeah.
So they updated on. And that does, I will say that is an issue, because sometimes things live in separate places, and if we don't have somebody kind of keeping an eye on it, it's real easy for the content to get stale, like you just witnessed from Richmond. If there's no reminder when somebody terms expired to necessarily go to every spot.
Well,
We do our best, but we've been guilty of the same thing. And I
terms-
promise you, if you search the dailycity.org website, you will find some stale content on there.
What?
The city doesn't have the luxury of having a webmaster.
But I've not seen a whole lot of.
Okay,
And those are actually, the term expirations are up to date,
yes.
so they're not too far.
I like using Richmond as a comparable city. It's roughly
Size-wise.
same size, and it's got some diversity like Daly City, and it doesn't have a huge budget. Like, Redwood City, like I mentioned, their budget's more than double our library budget.
Well, they didn't really have that much more.
No, they didn't.
though,
They didn't.
In terms of their web
Um,
presence.
And then I'll point out, because I don't think we have it on there, but then there's San Bruno, which has no mention whatsoever of a library commission or board of trustees. They don't have one, which is interesting in itself. Because City of San Bruno does have a municipal public library. And next is Burlingame. I think this gets a little fancier with some individual photos and a little
Wow.
bio information on some of the trustees.
I like how they take a picture for the books.
What?
Their background,
Oh,
or like
yeah.
in front of like
Yes.
library books.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And is there contact information or a greater description?
Oh, wait.
I think right
Sure.
there, yeah.
Well, that's
Staff
staff,
It's a mail to link.
except it says trustee for
That's-
title.
stuff. Oh, yeah, but those weren't the names up above.
They do have city email.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Is there more of a description of what their
Oh, with the-
trustees do? And do they call it trustees?
They have
Yeah.
duties.
Oh, they have a link to their duties.
Job description.
And that looks like something that was probably straight from the municipal code, I'm guessing.
Well, other opportunities, time commitment, that's not from the code.
Ah,
Current issues, qualifications.
okay.
A lot of dates.
All right, and what do we have up last is South San Francisco? Oh, no, San Mateo City.
Oh, Oh, more pictures.
So they also have headshots of the trustees. They designate, unlike the last one, they designate who the president and vice president are, and secretary even. And they have a shared contact that probably goes to a staff person that then disperses it.
That's what I would like. We did this.
And just a short paragraph about the board. And, yeah, their upcoming calendar and agendas and meetings. And South San Francisco is the last one I believe we have up. Again, the list of the members and, oh,
Here's
and they also have pictures and titles and brief bios. So those are the comparisons we brought up just to give you an idea of what other commissions and board of trustees are doing across the county. I'd like to turn it back over to the board of trustees for discussion and await your direction.
Okay, any action about this?
If we do this, I'd prefer that we had the group email the library board, and that whoever writes can address us individually. That's my preference. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, a word to the wise, if you put your personal
I
emails,
know.
they will be phished, and you
Yeah.
you will find yourself on a bunch of
Yeah, and I don't.
unwanted emails,
Right.
Well, I can give
recipient
you-
of unwanted
We
emails.
can give our fish emails. Yeah.
I like to throw out the option of having bios and pictures. I think it humanizes the library board to see who's actually on there and puts a face to the whole library commission. But then I just like to give it to the option to my fellow commissioners if they would like to, because I know like folks would like to have their privacy intact, and I like to honor that as well.
Yeah, I think I support what you say. I do think, since we are, a public board, in that sense, we have a responsibility to be identifiable as members of the Board of Trustees, other than just by, a name, which really doesn't say very much.
Right.
I also like the idea of being able to be contacted in some method, and perhaps even to have the option, if board members would be comfortable with providing more information, that be listed, with the understanding that if people, did not want to have more information, I'll just use that personal telephone number as an example, then it wouldn't be listed. But if somebody's comfortable with that, then they could say, sure, put my number up there. I just think the more options people have to know who the Board of Trustees members are and ways to interface with them, communicate with them. I mean, our job is to represent the community.
Right.
It's pretty tough for the community to express any feeling about what we're doing if they don't know how to get a hold of us, and in some cases don't even know who we are, because just a name doesn't tell them very much. I like the background statements a little bit. I think that also humanizes it. And again, that's an option. We saw some with background statements, some without.
I'm fine with the picture and the bio. I'm not fine with personal information ever. I think we're not elected public servants, we're appointed. And personally, I just would rather have, contact me through City Hall or through Chayla or Joseph.
I think you may find people who are having a conflict about fines and fees, things like that, are gonna not be satisfied with the answer that they receive from staff, and are gonna bring those issues to you when those are outside, the scope of what you address. You
Yeah,
know, I personally would not want them calling me at home, certainly.
I'm only suggesting that we provide that as an option
Okay.
for someone who, you know.
We're
want
open to your
list
direction,
it.
but if I could also tag on to Trustee Shubanka's, you started your statement by saying we're not elected officials. Even the elected officials in Daly City, I do not believe, maybe the city clerk, who has a generic city clerk email. The city council shares a citycouncil@dalycity.org that is triaged by staff, again, because 95% easily of what comes through is junk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they sort through. And what would, in the case of the city council, and I think it would apply here a little bit too, sometimes when a resident encounters a problem, their knee-jerk reaction is to go to the top to solve it.
Right.
And what we don't want is life safety matters going to somebody's personal email when we can get a quicker response at a staff level. But with that said, I'm totally open to whatever your direction is. But I just wanted to give you some context that even the elected here do not have personal emails advertised on
That's-
the city's
That's
website.
good to know, too. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, you need to have a life outside of your job and.
Well, it doesn't mean that they don't publish their
No.
stuff in other
But they have the choice.
places, yeah.
And my choice is that I would rather, but I like the
That's
idea of
reasonable.
having the option,
Yeah,
you know? So, I'm open to whatever you want as long as we have the option of not having what.
So what I'm hearing, and if there's more comment, okay, is you would like the option, have a photo, a bio. I've heard an option for personal email and phone number, and I've also heard a desire maybe have a generic, like libraryboard@dalycity.org
Like that.
email.
I like that too.
Those could
We
be
can
easily-
accommodate any and all of those. Here's one, I have a question back to you, is for your photos, I would prefer that you supply us with your glamour shot so that you have complete control over your public image and not leave it up to us.
We can't just go
clicking-
next door to the police department and get our number.
It's like,
Commission expires.
I mean, if you have a profile, flattering profile photo that you're already using in other social media outlets and you want to use that, you could send it to us.
Yep.
Or we can line you up against the wall and take.
We'll just provide you with
I
our-
think that would be our preference.
And that's for the bios as well, right? We give you a little.
Yeah,
bit
I'm not
of-
gonna, I don't
Yeah, okay.
want to write your bios if you provide
Like,
that back to us.
should we cap it at a
So-
word count or something? So-
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
yeah, I was thinking there should be some, not that anybody's gonna, write volumes, but,
Yeah. I don't know what the word count would be, but brief.
Lines or less, like that one's
Well,
8.
What, Pat?
Well,
That's
how-
not here.
How many sentences?
I would guess what,
Probably less.
It looks
than
like
that.
a
Yeah,
paragraph, like
less
five,
than
500 words.
yeah, looks about 200,
Or
300.
8 lines, 8 lines,
That's 8 lines, so.
Well, in
yeah.
that format, but
more or less.
I like the idea of a word count.
Yeah,
Yeah.
250, 500, 1,000?
no, not 2,000, that's too long.
A 2-page double typed.
I would say maybe like about 250 to 300, I would say. I think that's like about a paragraph, so.
that seems fine to me. I don't know that we would write that much,
Yeah,
but
And,
that's the
yeah,
limit.
I mean, and we're not
Yeah.
going to police that. We're going to
right.
put what you send us out
Whatever
there.
you like.
So if you want to go 1,200 words,
No, I'm cool.
Right, mine
Already
would.
I already have to grade papers, I'm like,
The less the better, I think.
yeah.
so
brief.
just to formalize this, we did list this as an action item.
Oh, yeah.
If somebody wants to incorporate all of that wonderful policy stuff into a motion, it would give us clear direction and we would proceed.
Do you want to list the items again, please?
You would provide both a bio and a photo if you choose. If you want, you would have the option of providing a personal email and a personal phone number. In addition to that, I will talk to our IT folks and see if we can create a group email. I'm just throwing, I'm open to suggestions. What I was thinking is libraryboard@dalycity.org, if that
Yeah,
works.
that works.
Yeah.
And then that would be probably sent to her, because you have
can
no
do that.
idea how many Daly City
Yeah.
inboxes I currently have. I've got a lot of them. Oh, that's a good point.
One of us could even take care of that, couldn't we?
Well, that's back to,
But the one person gets it. I mean, I'm not gonna volunteer Bill, but someone like Bill who's very interested. No, I'm just saying, the library board would not be going to his personal email.
right.
It'd be a box that one of us could go in and check and see if there's anything for us. It's on Outlook.
If that's the desire, I would suggest then you create a Gmail account and leave the city's network out of it.
Oh.
New account, yeah.
There's
'Cause,
policies.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to give you remote access to a city email.
Never mind.
But I have no problem forwarding pertinent things and
Yeah,
and
that's a-
sparing you all of the spam that comes through even with all of our spam filters, but it's, again, your
Mhm.
direction is,
I think
What
I,
we-
I suggest that you take care of that box, the library.
well, it sounds like some people may have their personal email out there. And then maybe at some other point, we can have a contact us.
Well, I'll make the motion. I move that we expand the Library Board of Trustees web presence by including a photo, subject to each trustee's, what shall I say, desire to have a photo. Biographical information presented by each trustee. Contact information if each trustee wishes to make that available, and a collective email account so that emails to the trustees can be forwarded through that and then, or sent to that and then forwarded to trustees.
Is there a second?
I second.
I know you like to say that.
I know, right?
Yeah, no, that's
Okay, it
good.
has been moved and seconded that we provide a photo and a bio and a collective email account for the Board of Trustees.
Yes, so there's a motion and a second, and
MSC.
all in favor?
All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained?
Hide.
Okay, thank you very much. We will, as soon as we start getting the information, we'll start adding it to the website.
That's great. And thank you, Chayla, for bringing those websites
Mhm.
together. That was very interesting.
Okay, we go to the next topic. Annual report, draft review. This needs an action. We have the draft here, created by Lex.
You have the whole thing, huh?
I like it.
It-
The only thing that I wasn't entirely comfortable with is that remember we were trying to cut down on how much text we had?
Right.
And now we've ended up with a lot of white space. White space at the top,
Mhm.
white space here, white space on the second page. And I'm not saying that we should add more text in, but I would like to see that filled in with something that would be relevant to either the articles that are written or activities that have been that took place within the 2015 calendar year.
There may be something here.
Yeah, only, especially on this right, on the second one.
I mean, it almost looks like something's missing
Yeah.
to me.
Only on this part. Because most of these spaces are taken except that.
Possibly if you can move, it's a formatting, just, move your margins up a little higher, and maybe you can have something here, or here.
Yeah, I agree with that, but if we move, and I think we should move it up, but that's gonna create more space at the bottom. So
we
again,
can
we're gonna
put-
have to reintroduce
we can
text
put
or bring
another-
something else in or another article.
Another figurine, whatever figure. It looks nice.
Mm-hmm.
One
Like
thing that
it.
occurred to me at today's Daly City Public Library Associates luncheon is that a lot of information about libraries were being passed out. And I was thinking, oh, what a missed opportunity
Mhm.
for this annual report
Mhm.
So I recommend that next year, when we do this, that the publication date be before the DCPLA St. Patrick's Day luncheon, so that it can be distributed at that point.
Yeah, we could have distributed it today.
Yeah, it would have been perfect.
Mhm. It would coincide with the DCPLA report. So they tie them together.
Mhm.
So, what's the next one?
Well, so
Do we add anything here, or?
could we add additional photos?
Yeah, children.
Some photos.
Yeah, yeah,
Maybe one or
Cute children.
cute.
Yeah, the toddlers.
Is there room there? You might, I don't know.
Or maybe even adults, doing something,
Signs.
or something that's new in the library. Because we talk about branch highlights. As a matter of fact, this space comes right after branch highlights. So perhaps that could be one of those items. But I think, I hadn't thought about this before, but when we move this header up, that's going to create space at
More
the bottom.
space,
So
yeah.
we need to think about that as well and how we're going to fill it in. And at this point, because, what are we, into March? I would be willing to, with these recommendations in mind, turn it over to Chayla and staff to make the decisions, complete it, and get it out.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
And it'll be something we will add a link to the website too, so it'll be
Oh,
available.
that's a great idea.
Mhm.
Okay.
So, I move that the annual report be amended as discussed in terms of filling in white space, raising the header, coming up with a perhaps branch-related photo for page 2, and turning it over to staff for completion.
Second
And-
that.
Okay. It has been moved that the annual report spaces be filled up. And all of whatever Bill says.
So there was a motion and a second, and
Motion.
all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No? Okay, we will do that.
Okay. It's too long for me to repeat. Okay, director's report?
Yes, the next item on our agenda is the the Winter Reading Challenge, which we piloted out at the Westlake Library this past winter, and Shayla is going to present a wonderful summary of the program. Take it away, Shayla.
Thank you. So, Karen Engel, the Westlake Library Manager, was unable to be here this evening, but she has created a summary of this program, which the staff at the Westlake Library initiated this year, and as the director said, piloted. So, I just, as a personal aside, I received really positive feedback from just the people I know that participated, and I don't know if anyone here got a chance, but you'll have another chance because we're going to repeat it. So it ran for 10 weeks, so a nice long period of time similar to summer reading. And the target reading was for 5 books, again, kind of similar to past summer reading programs. And they used a bingo format, which basically puts different genres of books into a bingo card. And in order to be able to get extra entries into the drawings, it encourages people to read outside the areas in which they normally would read. They did a sign up and even a little gift bag with a little bit of chocolate in it, because we love sweets.
Always helps.
And then each person got, it was a paper based program, each person got a trifold brochure with the bingo inside. And there you can see, she shows the inside. There are free choices, so it's not too confining. We want people to enjoy it. And part of, I think, one of the big reasons it was so successful was some of the great prizes. People donated a couple of really pretty amazing things, including 2 gift certificates to the new original Westlake Joes, which were very sought after. And then some, also a Kindle Fire tablet, which is nice because it ties into reading, of course.
It's a good gift.
Yeah, no, they were great prizes, and I think that makes a big difference. And here she summarized 150 people signed up saying they wanted to do it, and 35% of them did, in fact, end up completing it. And of course, it's one of those no obligation programs. So, people, if they don't remember to come back. So this is really actually a pretty high number, I think. It's quite positive. She's, compared to some of the prior programs, you'll see like a strange gap in the years, and that's because we had been trying for the summer adult program something a little bit different that didn't have signups and completions in the same way, so it's not really comparable data, so that's why she's skipped. But you can see it's quite successful. And Westlake, in general, is often very successful with programming for adults like this. So, and they, for those big readers, they had a second bingo card with different genres on it, so people who really wanted to challenge themselves can continue on. And she summarized some of the lessons, which is something I asked her to do, because we're going to go ahead and roll this out in future years at all the libraries. It's always a good idea to simplify some of the rules. If there's ever confusion, we want to make sure that we're clear in the future. And she definitely had positive response to the reading outside the comfort zone. I had actually people say that to me as well. And one thing I'd like to see added in future years is recommended reading, something we do a lot of readers advisory. And there's a whole section of readers advisory, which is, for instance, graphic novels for people who don't like to read graphic novels, or sci-fi for people who aren't into sci-fi. So it helps people, push out their limits a little and try something new and different. And then there's also a lot of libraries are doing a winter reading challenge for children. In fact, I think most of the libraries in PLS are already doing that. So that would be something that would be easily done in conjunction with this, and it allows for whole family participation. It encourages parents to model reading for their children. So anyway, it was, I thought, very successful, and they did a great job.
Good.
I like the idea of a family winter challenge. You do the parents and the kids, but
Together.
if the kids are, knowing that they're part of a team with their parents, that might
Well, that's an interesting
something
idea.
to roll out later.
I will pass that on. I like it.
I think, when you get family participation, it brings the parents and kids together. Stop it.
That would be good for the children, because they would be reading most of the time.
I think they'd be trying to make their parents look good, let's do the, we'll read 10 books to their 5.
Nice.
Like a contest.
Yeah. Or a cooperative thing where they're gaining a larger prize by having a larger cumulative number of books.
Well, I think it was a very worthwhile program, and I'm glad to hear that it's going to be repeated in the future with, a few tweaks, and compliments to Karen and the Westlake staff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's
Okay,
good. I might do
now
that
we
this
have the proclamation of National Library Week.
It's that time of the year again.
When is this? Next week?
April 10th.
So this year it is April 10th through April 16th, and there's a draft proclamation in your.
And that proclamation is for your review. We would, with your blessing, have the city council put it on their agenda for the first meeting of April. And it would be wonderful if one or all of you could attend the council meeting to accept on behalf of the
Date
libraries.
is the council meeting.
Looks like the 28th.
Second.
Because actually,
Looks like the
Oh,
28th day.
that means it's not going to happen. So is it after the fact then?
a little bit.
Oops.
What, 28th
Um,
day of March?
It's looking like the second meeting in March is not going to happen. So that would put us,
Oh, I see what you're
After the
saying.
fact, it sounds like, huh?
Barely.
So it would be April 11th,
Hmm.
and the weekend's on the 10th?
No, it begins on the 10th, so that'll be fine.
Oh, so-
That'll be fine.
Yeah, it's the Monday of library, that's actually, that would work.
Okay.
April 11.
So meeting April.
Now we go to the announcements and communications. Daly City Library Associates had a St. Patrick's luncheon today. There was a big turnout. It was a good turnout,
Mm-hmm.
very successful. And they also announced Tuesday's party opening for the children's.
Yes, we're very excited. The ceremony, children's refurbishing, has is finally come together. There were a number of little bumps along the way, and it's looking beautiful. The kids have just responded so positively to it. The children's librarian happily reported that a parent was trying to entice her children outside to the playground, and like, no, we want to stay in here and play. So we will be celebrating all the people who made this possible, including the Daly City Public Library Associates, at the next Tuesday's morning story time. It's a family story time. There's typically a very large turnout of families. If you come at 10, the story time starts at 10:15. You can see it as the kids are starting to come in, and we're going to do some photo ops, some fun stuff.
One question occurred to me at the lunch, and that was the first request for funding. I think it was collection expansion, perhaps under some other term, but that was the general idea. I was wondering, I assume these recommendations for expansion come from library staff, and I was wondering if it's what shall I say, a subjective kind of judgment, or if there's some way of determining where the collection is weak in terms of requests versus what's available. I'm just wondering how those categories were recommended for funding.
It is subjective. Each of the librarians has different areas of the collection that they're responsible for, different topic areas, and particularly as they go through and deselect items that are out of date, they notice if they're unable to build back up that collection with newer material. I think it said it in the proposal. Some areas, age much faster than other areas, and one of those was personal finance, and it was recently being gone through, and materials that were really inappropriately old were being removed.
Right.
And the librarian was, disappointed that he wasn't able to build it back up to the level that we might want it to be at.
Well, I certainly understand that. I'm just wondering if that's an area that gets some use, or if, for example, maybe there's not much interest in checking out books in personal finance.
Well, we do keep statistics on materials, and individual titles will know what their year-to-date, their previous year, and their cumulative use has been, as well as in-house use. And there are systems that exist that would allow you to do a more aggregate analysis of that, but we do not have such a system. Somebody tried to sell me one.
I have a note or a message from Susan A. to say that the DCPLA luncheon today was very nice, and thanked you for your words, and thanked you for your participation at the 3D desk. I thought that was cool. Did you get a lot of people stopping by?
Indeed, there's
Good.
so much interest.
Yeah. I was like, what is that thing? It looked like those creepy crawler ovens. So I had to take a look. So it was very good. She said thank you to you both.
And that actually makes me think, have we ever proposed a resolution thanking DCPLA for their support, something that's formal that would be presented to them by the city council? And if not, I would recommend that we
Yeah,
do.
we've typically, the sitting mayor sends a letter of thanks as we receive the big checks. I would encourage, if that's the desire, I mean, you don't set the council's priorities, but you can certainly communicate to the council your desire. If you want to
Yeah.
collectively make that suggestion, we can pass that along.
Well, I
Like,
was-
in the form of a commendation, is it?
No, in the form of a resolution. For example, I mean, what made me think about this was our discussion of the luncheon, number one, but also the fact that we have a resolution that we're recommending to the city council. And in that vein, I'm proposing that
That we
we
come back.
recommend a recommendation to the city council, or excuse me, we propose a resolution to the city council thanking DCPLA for its continuing effort in support of the libraries.
Okay, if we do that, we will give them every month, because they have been giving us all the time.
Oh, what if
Uh,
it was a
It's
resolution?
quarterly, but I think, if I'm understanding, a general resolution
Yes, right.
acknowledging and thanking them a one-time,
One time.
Right.
in
once and
addition
for
to
all.
the letters. I would recommend, since it's not on the agenda and it sounds like an action item that would come from this board, that we agendize it and maybe have a draft for your
Okay.
review at the next meeting.
Sure, that sounds good.
Proclamation.
Yeah, and maybe, splitting hairs here, we do commendations, we do resolutions, we do proclamations. Proclaiming something, like proclaiming
National Library Week.
National Library Week, Women's History Month, Bill Lex Day in Daly City, those kinds of proclamations.
You bet.
Very ceremonial. And there are commendations that are usually a token of gratitude for some, or recognition of some accomplishment, a commendation for heroism of a, police officer, or commending somebody for achieving a milestone in volunteer community service hours, something like that. A resolution is exactly that. It's a
Yeah.
resolution. It's a.
Maybe it's just a thank you, recognition. It's a
But,
recognition.
I mean, I guess want to figure out how to format it as a resolution, a commendation, or a proclamation from the council.
So for someone who's retiring and they're being thanked for their service, that's.
We would it's a resolution of commendation, a resolution commending them for their service. So maybe that could be a resolution of the city council commending the DCPLA
Like a
for,
commendation,
right.
commendation,
okay. A resolution of commendation. how about that?
commendation.
There we go.
Because we do that in the women's club. Resolution of commendation. Okay, what else is topics for next month's meeting anymore?
Just wondering if there's any update on the budget, or, anything that would affect the libraries collectively or individually?
As of now, there won't be, but I suspect by our next meeting, we're scheduled to review our budget with the finance director and city manager next week, kind of the preliminary step. And it kind of works through this process to the city council in May, I believe. So maybe as an interim step in April, we can update you with what looks like it will be brought forward to the city council.
So there's a preliminary or a draft budget for the libraries now?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, does it
It's,
look good?
what, the draft as it exists today is a status quo type of budget. There's no growth. I suspect what will come out the other side will be a reduction of sorts, and, I mean, some internal discussions. We've talked about possibility of areas that there may be opportunities to reduce a little bit, but that's a conversation that's gonna happen over the next couple of weeks, and hopefully I'll come back in April with an update, what looks like it may be going to the city council.
But if I understand what you're saying, at this point in time, the budget that's going to be discussed doesn't show growth or reduction.
Right, what we submitted is our preliminary submittal,
Right.
is a status quo budget.
Okay.
The reality, if you've been following Daly City, The entire city is still facing a large structural deficit, and I anticipate that we, along with other departments in the city, will be looking at some sort of reduction to help narrow that deficit going forward for the next 2 fiscal years.
I thought the new mall will help a
Pardon?
little bit. You know, the new Saramonte.
The expansion.
The expansion will help a little bit for the budget.
Will help. I'm not sure I follow.
Well, that it would add to the tax base and,
They
Yeah.
help
Oh,
with-
I see, yeah.
with the
Um,
tax.
No doubt it will, but as those things go, they usually lag a year or so after. So if you had gone shopping today at Ceremony, the sales tax you paid, which a tiny percent comes back to Daly City, winds its way through the state, through the county, and back to us, and usually about a 1-year lag time. So the new shops coming online there next year, you know, we're not going to see those revenues
Yeah.
for 2 or 3 years down the road. So, yeah, it's unfortunate that revenues in Daly City are pretty much limited to property tax and sales tax. Those are our 2 biggest sources of revenue. Haven't grown at the same rate expenditures have. And the biggest monster hanging out there is pension obligations. CalPERS has recalculated. We're living longer, so they expect their rates to be adjusted to in recognition of that. Public safety is a big part of it. If you look at Daly City's general fund budget, a big bite of that pie is taken out by police and fire. A smaller bite is recreation and libraries. So,
well, I guess my, interest in terms of providing advice, which is our role, is to know before something happens, so that we're able to comment on it rather than be informed after it's happened.
well, the budget won't be adopted likely until mid to late June.
I understand.
So there will be opportunities to engage, and maybe I'm hoping that there's something I can share at the April meeting, if not May, so that you can weigh in on that.
We'll look forward to that.
Yeah, it's a sad reality. If you've been
Yeah.
following, we've had a huge reduction in our materials budget over the last 5 years. It's gone the wrong direction. I would like nothing more than to be able to have an expanded discretionary, spending budget. But we're hanging tight right now. We could use more staff for sure. If you compare our staffing levels to most every other public library in this country, let alone this county, we're way below what the norm is, and we're hanging on for dear life. So,
Yeah, I know, that's why I'm concerned to understand what kinds of additional reductions are contemplated before, so that there's an opportunity to comment and advise while there's still time to do so.
Right.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Thanks, Joseph.
Any more comments? Announcements?
Oh, I was just gonna say, the staff have been working on a change to the procedure for obtaining a library card that would make it more accessible for teens. So that's something I'd like to bring to the next meeting as well.
Any more? Okay, meeting adjourned.
Boy, what timing.
Perfect timing.
I know,
My
right?
goodness. Somebody must be watching this on TV.